you go ahead and start the live stream, please?
Yeah. It's just, how do you
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the City Council chambers. It is now the time and place that has been noticed for a regular council meeting of the City of Caldwell. We welcome you. Prior to this meeting, we did have a workshop to discuss the ordinance definitions for preliminary planning and zoning department ordinance definitions and preliminary plat time extensions. So we had that workshop, no decisions were made, and it was discussion and presentation from staff. Again, welcome tonight. We'd like to begin with an invocation offered this evening by Pastor Royce Wright of the Oasis Worship Center. So if you'd please rise for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time that we've come together, and we just ask you for wisdom in every situation. You tell us in your Bible that when we lack wisdom is to ask you. So, Lord God, we ask for wisdom for everything that's going to be decided tonight. Thank you for peace. Thank you for protection. Thank you for guidance and direction. And we'll be careful to give you all the praise and glory now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, and please be seated. Pastor, thank you for coming down. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Alden.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Pollard.
Here, and I regret I can't be there, but pneumonia prevents it.
Well, we wish you well, Mike.
McGee.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a full full body of council members to hear the items of business before us this evening. Are there any items on the agenda that present a conflict of interest for any council member? Thank you. I'm not aware of any special presentations tonight. Those are all under the regular calendar. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council about an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, thank you. We will then move forward with the consent calendar, and it's been asked by the city attorney if we would move item number 22 under the consent calendar to item number 7A under the new calendar. So if there's a motion to do that, I'd appreciate it.
So moved.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. McGee. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Carlson to move item number 22 under the consent calendar to item number 7A under new business. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, I gotta wait to kind of remember that. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously, and so we will take that item then. So, is there a motion regarding the amended consent calendar?
Yes, Mayor. Move to accept the amended consent calendar.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Carlson. Second by Mr. Alden. Mr. Pollard, I apologize. Did you say something? I'm sorry. It's hard with the Zoom.
Well, I tried to make the motion, but okay.
Okay, well, a third by Pollard. Anyway, thanks, Mike. I'm sorry that it's just a little delayed with the Zoom, and I'm sorry, so. All right, so we have a motion by Carlson, a second by Allgood to approve the consent calendar as amended. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Carlson. Pollard. Pollard.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Allgood.
Yes.
Wagner. Hopper.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The items on the consent calendar have been approved unanimously by the council. And again, for those in the audience, the consent calendar consists of items that are considered routine in nature. Budgetary items have been approved previously in the budget. Completion of actions that the city council has taken in prior meetings. So thank you very much for council's action on those things. There is no old business. We will then move to new business. We have a presentation this evening by I. Bailey of the fiscal year 2020 City of Caldwell audit and consider its acceptance. Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I have Councilman John McGee, who was on our audit committee at our meeting on January 29th. So he'll do a brief introduction, and then I'll come back and introduce the auditors for the presentation for item number 1.
It's your choice.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Let me, just very briefly, because, the good news is, it's a very brief presentation. What we found out from Ike Bailey is what we continue to find out about our finances and our financial department and the leadership of our city is that we continue to run a tight ship. And then during our meeting, in late January, we heard a great presentation by the folks from Ike Bailey. It was online, but nonetheless, it was thorough. And, we can continue to be proud of Carol and her staff and mayor and the group that you put together. They've done a tremendous job. And we continue to see these stellar reports, about our finances. And as you all know, you read the newspaper, you don't always see that in municipalities and in local governments right now. And to say that we continually get these reports, I think, speaks well to what we're doing here. So I think Mayor and Council, you'll be thrilled about the report.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have tonight before us, Morgan Freeman, sorry, Morgan. Morgan Brown with Ike Bailey, who will be presenting the city audit as well as our single audit to you. I do want to take a moment or two to also recognize my staff. While they are not here tonight, one is in baby mode right now as we speak.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to acknowledge the staff that was part of the audit team, Rochelle Castleberry, Carrie Foster, Kim Hagan, for their time and commitment that they put into this. It was a difficult audit this year, challenges with being a virtual audit and trying to do an audit with auditors off-site. While we all complain about having auditors on-site for a couple weeks all the time, this year taught us to appreciate having our auditors physically on-site with us. So with that, I don't want to take any more time away from audit and Morgan's presentation on the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Morgan Browning. I'm an audit manager with Ike Bailey. I hope you can hear me well.
We can, thank you.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be back here again for yet another year to present the results of the fiscal year 2020 audit. Like Carol said, I'm going to go over the audit of your financial statements and the audit of your federal awards. We issued 2 separate reports, and within those reports, we have 3 separate audit letters that I'm going to go over. The reports kind of lay out our objectives and conclusions and collective responsibilities and the results. So I'm going to go over those, and then I'm going to go over a few financial statement highlights at the end and open it up to any questions or discussion that you have. I'm going to attempt to share my screen to go over my first report, which is the independent auditor's report. So let me do that. Okay, you cannot start screen share while other participant is sharing, so,
Morgan, go ahead and sign out. I just got color share, go ahead.
that's fine. Let's see. Oh, there we go. This is gonna work now. Okay. All right. Let me get to page 1, and then if I could get confirmation that you can see what I'm seeing, I would really appreciate it. This should say financial statement, City of Caldwell, Idaho, on page 1 there. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Great. So this is the audit of your financial statements, and our report is on page 1. Carol and her team are responsible for all 86 pages of this, three of which is our responsibility, and that's what I'm going to go over. So this is the independent auditor's report. It discusses Carol's responsibility and her team for preparation of these financial statements, and they're also responsible for designing and implementing internal controls that are sufficient to prevent and detect material misstatements within this report. So that's management's responsibility, Carol and her team's responsibility. our responsibility as auditors is to render an opinion on the accuracy and reliability of this financial statement. We accumulate sufficient and appropriate audit evidence through confirmation, through inspection, through test of detail, through analytical procedures, and various other procedures, and based on the evidence that we obtain, we render an opinion. So for fiscal year 2020, we are rendering what is referred to as an unmodified opinion. So that opinion is expressed here. And what it says is that in our opinion, the financial statements are free of material misstatements. So we do use materiality. We don't look at every transaction. We establish materiality. And then based on the audit evidence that we've obtained, we are issuing a clean opinion, is what I like to refer to it. It is the highest level of assurance that you can receive as an auditee. And for the last, I think, 3 years, that has been the opinion that the city of Caldwell has received. So congratulations to Carol and her team for another clean audit and a clean audit opinion. The last paragraph of this report references the report that is required by government auditing standards. And it's actually in our separate audit, and I'm going to toggle to our other single audit report to get there. And I would like confirmation that you can see what I'm looking at. This should be the federal award report in accordance with the uniform guidance. I'm hoping you guys can see that.
Yes, sir.
All right, so part of our audit entails a review of the design and implementation of your internal control system. So again, it's management's responsibility to implement internal controls that are sufficient to prevent and detect material misstatements. We look at that as part of our planning process. We perform interviews with department directors and key process owners. We perform tests of implementation. We do walkthroughs of these internal controls. And then also during the course of our audit, we review the accuracy of your financial statements. And if we had a lot of adjustments, or we had controls were not present, or we couldn't determine what the controls were, or we did our tests and did not see any implementation of these controls, this report would reference findings. So that's one aspect of this report, is internal control over financial reporting. The other aspect of this report is compliance. So as auditors, under government auditing standards, we're responsible for looking at grants, contracts, laws, and regulations that could have a material impact on your financial statement amount. We're required to test grants, contracts, and state laws, and look at those regulations and determine whether the city is complying with those regulations that could have a material impact. So, in conclusion, for fiscal year 2020, we did not note any instances of internal control deficiency. We didn't have any audit adjustments that we gave to the city to prepare. And we also did not note any instances of non-compliance with grant contracts, laws, and regulations. And that has also been the case for the last, I think, 3+ years that I've been audit manager for the city of Caldwell. So that is good news. So that is the second report. So the third report is a report that's required for our single audit. This is a report on compliance with federal award programs. So every year the city of Caldwell prepares a schedule and censors a federal award. And if you expend over a set dollar amount, I think it was $750,000, that triggers a separate audit. So this is the audit that I'm talking about. It's an audit of your federal award program. What that requires us to do as auditors is to select programs to test. So you can see from this slide that you had $1.5 million. The programs that we selected to test were your CARES Act funding, the Corona Relief Fund, and also your CDBG program as well. So we have those quantitative and qualitative metrics that we use to select these programs. So the objective of our audit of your federal war programs is actually to render an opinion as to whether or not you complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements applicable to those programs. We also look at your internal controls over compliance, that the city has in place to ensure that you comply with HUD's requirements and, with your Department of Treasury, CARES, Corona Relief Fund guidance that has been published. So that is the objective. So for fiscal year, 2020, I'm pleased to, present that we didn't have any instances of internal control issues over compliance, and that it's our opinion as auditors that you complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements applicable to these programs. So again, congratulations for, getting the clean opinion on your, CRF funds. I know that's been in the news a lot lately, and, there's been some controversy over it, and it's a new program, so there's some uncertainty about it and everything, but I think, the city did a good job at looking at the guidance and consulting with us early on in terms of how to approach these things. So I wanted to state that as well. So, page 8 basically recaps exactly what I've stated thus far. It actually summarizes all our auditors' results. So it states that we have an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. There's no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted over financial reporting. We didn't have any instances of non-compliance. We also are issuing a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion over your major program, and it also details the programs that we tested for the year. So that is your audit and the results in a nutshell. I wanted to pause here just for a second. I'm going to go into some financial statement highlights, but I wanted to pause a little bit to address any questions that City Council or anybody has over the audit, its objectives, and the results.
Any questions from council to this point? Mike or Rob, I can't see you on, any questions? Okay. I think for the public, just to recap what we've heard so far, I always put it in terms of my granddaughter's report cards. She would probably get a big hug and an extra bonus on her allowance or something, but because this is basically A+, which is incredible for our staff, and that's what the recap is of the report to this point. Of course, now we're going to talk a little bit about numbers, but by the same token, Carol, you and your staff have done tremendous. And I think you also noted that this is 3 years in a row that we've also had the same high level of competence and accuracy with our budget and audit. So thank you so very much, Carol, for your leadership in that manner. Anyway, any questions? Okay, go ahead. Great. So it's good to go over the audit. You can look at the city's finances from a lot of lenses. This is a framework established by GASB, and it's not necessarily the same kind of reporting that council receives or the finance committee receives on a monthly basis. So I wanted to emphasize that. But I'm just going to go over a few financial statement highlights, and then open it up to any questions that you have. So the first statement that we're responsible for auditing is the city's statement of net position. So this statement details all the city's funds, and it essentially consolidates all these funds into two separate columns: the business type activities for your water, sewer, sanitation, street lighting, and all your non-major enterprise funds, such as your golf fund, are combined and reported in this column. And then all your governmental funds, the general fund, street, all your special revenue funds are consolidated in this column right here. So it's presented on a consolidated basis, similar to how a business enterprise would report its financial statement, net position. So what's interesting about this statement is that it includes all your assets. So not only your liquid assets, such as your cash, your receivables, but also your
hard assets, like your capital asset, your buildings, and on the same thing, your liabilities, it reports your current liabilities, but it also reports your non-current liabilities, your net pension liability and your OPEB liability as well. Things you wouldn't necessarily, see on a monthly, reporting of the finance committee. So it's intended to measure your economic net position, in total. So that's this number right here, your net position. You've got $319 million in net position as of September, as of a point in time, $319,418,808 in net position as of September 30th, 2020. Most of that is your investment in capital assets. That's $247,334,000, and then the rest is unrestricted net position of $72,084,000. What's interesting this year, compared to previous years, is that the city is debt-free. So typically, the investment in capital assets is net of related bonds payable. I think you had some sewer bonds payable and other bonds payable in previous years. And so what stood out this year is that you no longer have any bonds payable, so it's just investment in capital assets.
I'm going to pause you just for one more minute, if I may.
Sure.
Did everybody hear debt-free? The city of Caldwell is debt-free. Did you hear that? That's again, good policy by council. That's good management by staff, other departments, and, I just am thrilled. I mean, to be in that position, especially with the difficult times we've had over the past, years with, with the economy, the way it's been up and down and around, and, it's amazing that we've been able to accomplish that, so congratulations. So I apologize for pausing you, but I just wanted to, that's kind of like the A+ thing, now we're debt-free, so I just want to get these good things out. It's nice to hear good things.
Right.
Thanks, A+.
Yes. Yes, thank you for reiterating that. I definitely want to stress that. That's not true for a lot of my other governments, and it's very rare actually, so to see that. So I definitely want to emphasize that. So that's what I wanted to highlight for your statement of net position. This next statement is a statement of activity. So it details all your revenues and expenses for the year, it separates them out by program, public safety, parks and recreation, community service, and it details all your expenses. And then your revenues, that offset those expenses, and it reports a net expense here for the year, before, considering general revenues. And it segregates them by governmental activities and business type activities, so you can see that there. You can really get a sense of how your net position changed, during the year, and you can see that for governmental activities, you had an increase of $19 million, for business type activities, you had an increase of $13.6 million, for an overall increase of $32.7 million. So a lot of that increase is attributed to contributed capital, infrastructure. So those are related to your capital asset activity. Is that contributed capital? You also had increases in charges for services and increases in property taxes that resulted in this increase in net position. So I wanted to highlight that as well. So, moving to our governmental funds, this is more in line with, I think, how the Finance Committee and City Council would see the city. They see them in separate funds, with particular emphasis on the general fund. So the way that GASB has framed this is that we report all your major funds, and then we aggregate all your non-major funds into a single column. And there's actually a breakout towards the end of this report that details the composition of these other funds. But the emphasis here on the balance sheet is on major funds. So you can see the general fund here, the street fund, other governmental funds. The focus of this statement is really your fund balance. So this is as of a point in time, as of September 30th, 2020. For the general fund, you had $26.6 million in fund balance. So, and then you had that in total, but you had a lot of it was committed or assigned for a specific purpose. So you have all this money, but a lot of it is assigned, by council for designated contracts for carry forward. The key number here I want to emphasize is unassigned fund balance. You had $3.7 million in unassigned, fund balance in that general fund, as of September 30th, 2007. A good metric is to look at your fund balance compared to, your expenditures. So we can see the same sort of statement, here on this page. This is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for your governmental fund. And you can get a sense of what the revenues, what the expenditures were in the general fund. You can see that, your general fund balance increased, $1.9 million, during the year. So, we had some donations and, various things, contributions for Licensville Field, the Simplot Stadium, that sort of thing that are attributed to the increase, but you can really get a sense of your expenditures and revenues, for each of your major funds. So you had $31.9 million in expenditures, for the year ended, in the general fund, and you had $26.6 million in fund balance. So that's about 83% of fund balance, ratio compared to your expenditures for the year in your general fund. So that's a pretty healthy fund balance compared to your annual expenditures. I wanted to emphasize that a little bit. Moving to your enterprise funds, again, there's the way that GASB has this is we have your major funds, and then we have your non-major sort of aggregated here. You've got your water, your sewer, your sanitation. Again, we have our statement of net position as a point in time. For the enterprise funds, what I really wanted to emphasize is your operating income. So, for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020, you had positive operating income in the water, sewer, and sanitation funds. So you had 1.6 positive operating income, 4.6 million in sewer positive operating income, and 210,000 positive operating income in the sanitation. For the others, you had a loss. A lot of that kind of relates to the golf fund, and we can go over it, we can look at that a little bit. But I wanted to make sure that we discussed the operating income for your enterprise funds. For your enterprise funds too, we're required to detail a statement of cash flow. So you can really see which funds made money during the year from their operations. Again, what I wanted to highlight is your net cash from your operating activities. You had $2.8 million in positive operating cash flow in the water fund, $6.4 million in the sewer fund, and $203,000 in the sanitation fund. So that's positive operating income overall. Towards the back, you have your non-major, so I'll just scan down there a little bit, and we can see that. It's 82. So you can see your non-majors. Your non-majors are your irrigation, your street lighting, and your golf fund. So the only one that lost money this year was that golf fund. It lost $42,000 this year. That's actually a lot less than previous year. Last year the loss was $193,000. So I think it's a smaller loss than in previous years. So I wanted to emphasize that. And there's still a lot of subsidy here for the general fund for operations. You can see the transfer in coming from the general fund, that $52,000. And, but it's a lot smaller, loss overall. So, you had $8,000 at September 30th, 2020. So I wanted to highlight that. So I had discussed, some financial statement highlights. This is 86 pages, and you've got a breakout here, each individual fund. You've also got, you also have note disclosures, in the report as well that discuss the composition of your cash and your investments as well, that we can go over. But I wanted to just kind of open it up a little bit and discuss something that maybe you saw on the draft, or maybe you guys had questions on and try to answer any questions that you have over your audited financial statement.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor, would
Mr.
you
Coughlin.
explain why we have a, large cash flow in, like, the sewer department?
Sure.
Why we do that?
Again, through, policies that the Public Works Director and staff have put into place. For example, as we see needs coming from, environmental, requirements that we're going to have to meet with our NPDES permit, we start saving money, knowing that we're going to have to pay for those improvements of the treatment plant. Also, as we grow, obviously, we have to increase capacity of the treatment plant. And so what we've tried to do, and actually we've succeeded to do, is get to a point where we are on a cash basis for those. And I don't mean to, this is not meant to disparage anybody at all, but, for example, the city next to us just bonded for $180 million of treatment improvements. And we've been expending 10 or 15 million a year and paying cash and doing those improvements because we've put policies in place. And so what happens when you can pay for it cash rather than bonding? Obviously, it saves the bonding cost, it saves the interest. If you bond for $20 million, you're probably going to pay back about $35 million on a well, depending on the rates. Well over $30 million on a $20 million bond over a 20-year period of time. So the value of money by being able to pay cash is a huge benefit to the citizens of Caldwell. So, for example, in some cities, we've seen 100%, 200% increases in sewage fees over the past few years, where Caldwell's has been maybe 5% or, some small, but what we've been doing is knowing that these expenditures are coming based upon phosphorus or nitrates or temperature or whatever, EPA decides to, well, I guess now IDEQ, wants in their NPDES permit. That's the National Pollution Elimination Discharge Permit, the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. And so we see those things coming, we know what's contained in that permit. So again, wisdom on the part of our Public Works Director and staff. They come to council and say, we need to start saving money because we know we're going to have to change X, Y, Z. And so we budget for that. So we've been doing improvements at the treatment plant for several years now, not only improving the capacity, but also improving the quality and keeping up with the requirements. So that's why you see sometimes in our, for example, right now we've got $4 million in say $4.7 million in the treatment plant, in fund balance. But again, those are programs for expenditure. So you'll see that fund balance go up and down. We spent, what, $20 million a couple of years ago in 1 year? Does that sound about right, Brent?
I think it was 12 mayor.
Okay, maybe it was over
Although,
2 year period
I
of time.
hate to
No, you're fine.
correct the mayor because I'm usually wrong when I do.
I think it was over 2 year period of time. I think we spent 12 and 8.
Yeah.
But again, that's an example. So rather than bonding for that 20 million, we'll let our fund balance go up and then pay cash and then build it back up again. And so it's more of a gradual impact than a sudden impact. The other thing that you'll see in, for example, in the general fund, one of the reasons we do carry a fund balance there is we get our tax payments from the county and for property tax basically twice a year. And so we need to have enough money to carry us from tax payment to tax payment so that we don't have to issue revenue, what are they called, anticipation bonds. So again, we're saving the cost of bonds, we're saving the cost of issuing revenue anticipation bonds. So we carry a cash balance that goes up and then comes down, as we're burning it down until we get our next tax infusion, and then it goes back down again. So at any given time, you will see, maybe 30% of our expenditures in the general fund in a cash balance because we're going to spend them down. We don't have revenues otherwise. The other thing, of course, that we try to do with all of our policies is to make sure that as water, sewer, as we grow, we're trying to make sure that new growth pays for itself. So, for example, this year you saw an increase in the revenues from property tax, but we knew it was a tough year out there. We did not take a property tax increase. We did not take the 3% allowed by state code. We only gave a 1% increase in a pay raise to our employees. And so all the increases, what we're trying to do is make sure that new growth as it comes in, they pay property taxes, but we're using that money to hire police officers, we're using that money to hire more firefighters, we're using that money to pay for the services that are necessary as new growth comes into the city, if that makes sense. And so that's, how you'll see that. So again, the increase in property tax was not because we raised it, it's because we grew it 6 or 7% last year. As you know, you see all the growth going around us. Well, as those dollars start to come into the coffers, those dollars are then turned around and used to pay for the services that those new developments require, if that makes sense. That make sense? Okay. I think that answers your question, Dennis?
That certainly does.
That was a long answer to a question, and we could go on and on and on, but, again, congratulations to council and staff for good policy. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council. I just want to highlight one thing on the golf fund that Morgan did bring out, that the golf fund, while it did sustain a loss this year, the loss was not, as bad as we have had in the years prior. Council approved to support the golf fund to the tune of $150,000, and this year, the golf fund only used $52,000, and $30,000 of that was used for the 3 new cart paths that, we had put in out of the first 3 holes there at Purple Sage. In meeting with the golf staff, they decided that they did not want to take any more, transfer money this year from the general fund, because they wanted to be able to show to council at the end of the year the progress that we are making out in the golf department. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell, we are still paying for golf carts as well, right?
Correct. We have 3 more years left on that loan. So also in this loss is that payment back to, an internal fund.
The day is coming.
We're so excited too. So, with that, if there's no more questions from mayor or council or anything else from our auditors, I would like to, propose that, council take an action to accept the fiscal year 20 audit report as presented by Ag Bailey.
Thank you. Is there a motion by council to accept the fiscal year 2020 call audit as presented by our auditors?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make that
So
motion.
moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Pollard, second by Mr. Carlson, to accept the audit as presented by Ag Bailey for the fiscal year 2020. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And also, copy of the audit is certainly public record. If any of you would like to have a copy of that, Mrs. Mitchell can hook you up. And we're very proud of the audit, obviously, so we'd love to have you, if you need, if you want it. Okay, the next item under new business is presentation by the city finance director for FY 2020, city employee benefit plan trust, and to consider it, audit, and to consider its acceptance.
Thank you, Mayor.
That was easy for me to say, wasn't it?
That's right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We also had an audit on our fiscal year 20 health trust plan. And so with that, I'm just going to take you through a couple highlighted items in the audit report. I don't have fancy presentation like Morgan did, so, but you guys have electronically. On page 3 of the health trust audit report, as of September 30th, 2020, planned contributions from all sources totaled $3.6 million compared to the prior year of $3.4 million. Planned deductions for the current year was $3.3 million, leaving an increase into the health trust fund of $386,487 compared to last year's increase of $3,579. Our reserves, minimum reserves that we were required to have in place by Department of Insurance of $832,203, and our reserves are $2,315,230. So what that means is we're not going to need to ask for another contribution to the plan this year. And so we have an excess in our reserves of $1,483,027. Net position at the end of the fiscal year for the plan is all cash. It's $2,315,230. Very simple. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Mitchell? Thank you. Now, is there a presentation from Ag Bailey on this one, or is it just Madam Mitchell?
Just me.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mrs. Mitchell? If not, there's a
Mr.
motion.
Mayor?
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Polly.
I was just questioning, has council been sent this report, because I haven't seen it?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yep,
It should be in the packet that Debbie sent out last week, and it's also on the website as of tonight. Angie said she posted this.
it was sent out last Thursday, Mr. Polly.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions? Is there a motion then to accept the Employee Benefit Plan Trust audit?
So moved.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Carlson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us then to item number 3, which is a presentation by Mrs. Mitchell for the FY 2020 Caldwell East Urban Renewal Agency audit and to consider its acceptance.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tonight you have before you the Urban Renewal's fiscal year 20 audit report. This report will be presented to the Urban Renewal Commission at their March meeting, so on March 8th, this one will be presented. Just a couple items here of highlights for Mayor and Council tonight for Urban Renewal. In the general fund, which is what Urban Renewal is called, we have a fund balance at the end of the year of $16,862,114. Of this amount, $12,423,056 is restricted for urban renewal projects. $4,425,085 is also restricted for bond covenants that we're required to hold for the bond. The agency's total bonds owing at the end of the fiscal year was $10,204,296. Another item to note is our taxable, as we discussed a little earlier on property taxes. The total net taxable value in the city of Caldwell, when we received the documents from the county, is $2,771,409,009. This is a $326,109,890 increase from last year's net taxable value. So net taxable value is less your exemptions, which is the homeowner's exemptions, and then they also pull urban renewal out. Urban renewal's portion for city limits within the agency's district boundaries is $790,905,401. Urban Renewal had a total expenditures of $12,264,694. With total revenues, most of it is coming from property taxes, $10,069,865, leaving a decrease into the fund balance of $2,194,829. And we'll start seeing this decrease, hitting that fund balance as we get ready to sunset the urban renewal boundary area. So with that, I will stand for questions for urban renewal.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Any questions from council? And again, for those in the audience, the Urban Renewal Agency is created under state code by the city of Caldwell, but then it becomes its own separate entity. It's actually a subdivision of the state of Idaho. And so even though it was created by the city council's authority, it has a separate board, a separate commission, and it controls that. And again, those are, when we started the Urban Renewal Agency in 1998, the assessed value of the city of Caldwell was approximately $660 million for the entire city, and we were not growing. And since that was created, we have gone from about 23,000 in population, and some people may like this and some people may not, but I've seen not growing, and the consequences of not growing are way worse than trying to keep up with growth. But anyway, with growth, we've grown to about 62,000 people in that 20-plus year period of time. The assessed value of the city of Caldwell has gone from $660 million to $2.7 billion. And along with that, of course, the job base has been, thousands of jobs have been created. The average household income in the city of Caldwell has gone from approximately $30,000 per household to approximately $50,000 per household. So those investments by Urban Renewal Agency, again, that's new growth paying for itself. Those are in areas out to the east of us you've seen, and a little bit downtown. that those investments in the Sky Ranch Business Park, all those businesses that have come to town, jobs that were created, that's a wonderful thing for the city, and that helps drive up that household income, as well as, the Urban Renewal Agency has paid for roads and, exit 29 improvements and improvements at the treatment plant that our ratepayers would otherwise have had to have paid. Widening of Highway 2026, increasing the, downtown, you know, to what it is today with the Indian Creek Plaza and the, you know, all those things that Urban Renewal were able to do. You know, just jokingly, a while back, I made a statement in a State of the City address, and it's kind of stuck. But this is the proof that it's true. And I said that, you know, we've all heard the statement that, you know, a vision without a plan is only a dream, right? But a vision without a funding mechanism is a hallucination. And that Urban Renewal Agency has been the funding mechanism for all those wonderful, wonderful dreams that were envisioned many, many years ago, and you've seen those come into play. And we just simply couldn't have done it without it. And again, that's new growth paying for itself, and if you're not in the agency, the Urban Renewal Agency certainly doesn't affect your property taxes in any way, shape, or form. But if you do live in the boundaries, then it's just simply a reallocation. It doesn't raise your taxes, it just means they get divided up a little bit differently. So, that's again, I think, it's about ready to sunset. We have, one more year. We will begin the sunset process in February of, well, about a year from now, next year. And then it will, the revenue allocation area itself will go away. But I think it will leave a legacy of great improvements and investments in the city that will, I think, have changed positively forever. So, thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Mitchell? Is there a motion then to accept the Caldwell East Urban Renewal Agency audit for fiscal year 2020?
So moved.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Carlson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allgood. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't wait long enough, did I? There's a lag in the, I keep forgetting to wait. Any nay? Any opposed, nay? Thank you very much. The audit has been approved unanimously by Caldwell City Council. That takes us then to item number 4, which is a presentation by the City Finance Director, and to consider a resolution accepting the calendar year 2020 annual activities report for the Caldwell East Urban Renewal Agency, and set the public hearing date for March 8, 2021, at the regular scheduled Urban Renewal Agency meeting at 7 p.m. Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, you have before you tonight, state code requirement for the Urban Renewal Agency to present to you a report on calendar year. So this will be calendar year 2020. This is from January of 20 to December of 20. And we have a couple items that we'll go over with you. We've got some financial statements, and then we have an activities report. So the activities report this year is 2 pages, as opposed to being 1 page in the past. So Urban Renewal was very busy this year. I'm not going to hit everything, but I will hit a few items on here, and if I forget anything, Mr. Mayor or Council, you're real welcome to add them as well. So during 2020, the agency, in February 20, the agency committed funds to build necessary infrastructure for the expansion of the Canyon County Fairgrounds. So that is that piece behind Taco Time, that piece of land there. So we are assisting the county using the Urban Renewal increment financing that the county allocation piece is for, and to improve that piece of land there for the county fairgrounds. We're not building anything, we're just doing infrastructure out there. In March of 2020, Urban Renewal purchased an underutilized property at 318 Kimball. This is the formerly known as the Cleveland Event Center, in an effort to eliminate sun and light in downtown Caldwell. We currently now have an RFP. Well, the RFP has completed on that property, and I think we heard some good news today that we possibly might be closing sometime in March on that with the developer. So that's exciting news. In April of 2020, the agency started working to provide public infrastructure and committed $3.5 million for infrastructure to upgrade the area, which will allow opportunity for commercial and industrial development to the region along Highway 2026 near the I-84 exit 29 in Caldwell. This is known as the North Ranch area. I believe we are almost done or close to being done, Mr. Orton, with that project, so $3.5 million out there. In May of 2020, the agency committed to lighting up Caldwell. And we were so looking forward to turning on the lights, but the pandemic did not allow that. So hopefully soon, Mr. Mayor, we might be able to light up Caldwell soon, where we put stadium lights at Simplot Stadium as well as at Wolf Field. So now that is an economic tool for us to be able to bring more games into those facilities and do games at night. So, and I believe Mayor has.
Actually, Regan Rossi sent me a picture of a snow-covered stadium lit up with a soccer game going on the other night. Remember, it was snowing so badly the other night? I think it was maybe Friday night? Was that the night it started snowing so bad? And when she sent me a picture, it was really quite wonderful, but quite eerie, because it was snowing, the field was covered with snow, and these poor ladies were out there playing soccer. But the reason she sent it to me is because it was lit up and gorgeous with all those new lights. But so we'll eventually get there, but that was the first time I've seen a real life match or game of any kind on Simplot Stadium since we.
And what's really exciting about these lights is they are controlled by your phone. So Juan and or Denise and their staff can turn the lights on when needed and turn them off when the games are done, and we don't have to have staff be there to turn those off. So that's nice. In June of 2020, the agency acquired approximately 15 acres of underutilized property adjacent to the Caldwell Airport. The property will be utilized by the airport for construction of additional airport-related infrastructure and provide for building opportunities for aircraft-related businesses. So this was big for the airport to be able to acquire this piece of land. I think we've been working on trying to get this piece of land for 10 plus years, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was
Maybe 15. I think closer to 15.
We continue to stay committed to the business incentive grants that have been approved by the agency. So those will soon be done in 2022. We'll have our final payout in 2022 with those, right before we get ready to sunset. So with that, I will stand for questions on the activities. I just hit some highlights. I'm sure I probably missed some other big ones, but I don't want to take up too much time here tonight for you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Questions or comments from council?
So we'll hit the financial statements real quick. I know some more boring numbers. Yeah, everyone's eyes are starting to roll in the back of their heads, so I'll be quick and brief. This is a calendar report. This is exciting stuff, Mr. Allgood.
Yeah.
I get excited.
Yeah, I'm writing down everything.
Okay, all right. So we have before you a statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance for calendar year 2020 as of December 31st. Current expenditures are $15,150,642. Current revenues as of December 31st is $10,225,550. For a deficiency of revenues over expenditures of $4,825,091. Your balance sheet as of December 31st, 2020, between cash and taxes receivable and interest and land household development is $29,982,046. Liabilities, most of the liabilities are in your notes, or in bonds, and so we've got $12,679,688 for your liabilities, and then deferred inflows, which we have to record our taxes receivable, even though we have not received them yet. So we have $10,171,793 in expected revenues for taxes. Fund balance is $7,130,565,000 as of December 31st. And with that, I'll stand for questions and ask for action to hold a public meeting in March for a renewal.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Mitchell? And again, just as a reminder, the majority of those funds will be expended between this year and next year for projects you've already been made aware of and the urban renewal agency has approved. A big one, of course, has to do with the widening of I-84. That one is one that, when the original plan came through to widen the interstate, they had only programmed the UC crossing to be a 2-lane overpass. which we thought was, bizarre, short-sighted or something, so we went back to ITD and asked them to reconsider. But the only way that they would, they said that they would include that, but we had to pay for it. But we felt like it was such an important corridor for the airport, for transportation, throughout the valley and the city itself. That's been programmed as a 5-lane road for decades. So we went ahead and committed the funds through urban renewal to pay for the widening of the overpass and the associated, entrances to the overpass from the, it'd be the west, I guess, right? Kind of, sort of the west. Over the overpass and then on the east side down approximately to Aviation. So that will prepare us for the next, instead of having to come back and try to repair that and rebuild it a few years from now when we know it's going to be. So again, that's just that planning that we're talking about, and that's approximately $4.5 million in expenditures. That's going to be another item on the agenda for tonight, that you'll be made aware of. But those are the kind of investments that the Urban Renewal Agency continues to make. But then again, as it sunsets, then all of those assets, those projects will be completed, and that will, the revenue allocation area piece will go away. All right, I'm sorry. So we need a motion then to consider the, to set a, hearing for March 8th for urban renewal, and to consider the, information that Mrs. Mitchell has presented tonight. So is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Allgood, a second by Mr. McGee, and so that the hearing would be set again on the March, what did you say again? I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. 8? Oh, there it is, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. All right, I would ask then that moves us then to the next, and thank you, Mrs. Mitchell, for everything. Thank you to our auditors, again, Bailey. Thank you to all the financial staff and everyone for getting us to this point tonight. All right, the next 2 items on the agenda are both quasi-judicial public hearings. I will explain how those are to be held. I would assume some of you are here for those hearings tonight. The first hearing is the quasi-judicial hearing, SUB 20P10, a request by Blake Wolf on behalf of Ribco Properties, LLC, for a preliminary plat of 10th Avenue Heights subdivision, a multifamily residential development in an R3 high-density residential zone on parcel number R35664, containing 2.55 acres. The proposed multifamily development contains 9 residential lots and 2 common lots with 8 fourplex buildings and 1 duplex for a total of 34 dwelling units. Access will be from Amber Street, and the subject property is located on the west side of 10th Avenue, approximately 180 feet of the intersection of Amber and South 10th Avenue. So again, this is quasi-judicial, and the next one as well. So these hearings are held as follows. We first will have you sworn in here just in a moment. If you would like to testify at either one of those hearings, we'll swear you in at the same time. And then you have to be signed up to speak at these public hearings. So we'll declare the public hearing open, and then staff will make the presentation regarding the request from the applicant. Once the staff presentation is made, then we will have the developer or their representative. Yeah, we've lost. Did you lose yours too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost mine as well.
Yeah, we got mine back.
Anyway, we'll have a presentation as the city staff, and then the developer or their representative will make the presentation regarding the request. Once the developer has made their presentation, then those who have signed up in favor will be called in the order in which they have signed up, and then those with questions or are neutral, and those who are in opposition to the request. After all the testimony has been given, then we will give the developer a chance for rebuttal testimony, if they choose to rebut anything that was, any testimony that was given during the public testimony portion of the hearing. During the hearing, I will keep track of an evidence list as well as the city attorney. Once all the public testimony and evidence has been issued, then we will move forward with the decision-making process. First, by closing the public testimony portion of the hearing. Then I will ask council to approve the evidence list, then render a comprehensive plan analysis, issue findings of fact, conclusions of law, and then order a decision based upon the evidence and testimony given during that time tonight. if there are, any questions about how that process works, I'd be happy to answer them. I know that was a lot in a short period of time. Any questions? Okay, so with that, if you're gonna speak at either item number 5 or 6, if you'd all please rise, raise your right hand, and the clerk will swear you in.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. May you be seated?
Okay, you've all been sworn in, so as you come forward to this evening, as you're called forward, if you please give us your name, your address for the record, and then acknowledge that you've been sworn in. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, just real quick, I was, staff on the annexation of this property at one time. I do not see any issues, do not have anything involved with it at this time. I just want to declare that, and again, I will stay, neutral on it and all that, but just want to make sure that's on the record.
Okay, so you're not gonna participate in the hearing?
I was planning on it, I don't
Okay.
foresee any issues, but I just wanted to put that on there,
Mr.
as it was a separate request.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilman Wagner, the issue would be the consequence of Mr. Wagner having information, from his prior experience, but that should all be incorporated in the staff report at this point. Given his declaration that he intends to proceed in a unbiased manner, I think it's fine.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Debbie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Debbie Root, Senior Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard, and I have been sworn. The case before you tonight is a preliminary plat for 10th Avenue Heights subdivision, a multifamily development brought forth by Blake Wolf. The previous hearing, the hearing examiner heard this case in addition with a special use permit, which was approved and provided for relief from the current zoning code for common driveways, internal circulation streets, which we brought before the council 2 weeks ago, a workshop to address the internal circulation piece of our ordinance that is missing for these residential developments. And so in lieu of that, the hearing examiner, through the special use permit, provided relief for this development, for that internal circulation, including allowing for a common drive greater than 150 feet, and serving more than 6 units in that. And that was provided after Mr. Wolf actually met the expectations of staff and the hearing examiner, providing for a minimum 26-foot wide street width required by the fire district or the fire marshal, and including an additional hydrant to ensure that all of the units could be reached with fire services for that purpose. With that said, what's before you tonight is a preliminary plat application. And that preliminary plat application is subject to an annexation agreement, the conditions thereof indicating wider landscaping buffers between the existing residential and the high-density residential that was provided for by council when they approved the rezone or approved the annexation and zoning to R3, adjacent to these older R1 or county properties that exist there today. So with that, Mr. Wolf has provided for the conditions of the annexation and development agreement with the wider buffers. He provided for the requirements of staff for showing the actual street easement and width of the parking and the street on the preliminary plat, provided for opportunity if and when the parcel to the south is to develop, that there is a shared access at the 10th Avenue entrance And, there's an access from the property also out to Amber Street as well. The density is well below the actual, density that could be allowed in the R3 zone. Mr. Wolf has done a good job of, creating lots that meet the dimensional standards for the number of units per structure, has provided for open space and those landscape buffers, and, staff is recommending approval of the, preliminary plat. It is in, substantial compliance with the comprehensive plan, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Roden. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you. All right, Blake Wolf?
Hi, my name is Blake Wolf. I live at 843 West Horizon Way in Nampa, and I was sworn in. Ms. Root hit, pretty much all the bullet points. Couple things I want to add to it is, she made mention of the access off of 10th. It's a right-in, right-out only, for obvious reasons on that busy road. There will be an HOA. This is a subdivision. Each building will have its own taxable parcel. All the blacktop, I don't know if this is a technical term for engineering or not, but there'll be a blanket easement over all that for, cross-access and utility, which is very standard, public utility. It's very standard in this type of setup when, you don't have designated parking slots. It's kind of a first come, first serve for the tenants. Working with Fire Marshal Perry, we established street names for quote-unquote street names, or streets. They're not streets, but that's one reason why we're here. Just the drive lanes for, finding for emergencies and addressing for obvious reasons there. We lined up Easy Lane with Easy Street across, 10th. And, working with, Fire Marshal Perry, we added a centralized fire hydrant and, there on the west side, and then, we made those lanes, slightly wider, just because of his, large apparatus to get through there, and, for obvious reasons there for passing, and all the parking islands, the radius on the parking islands are all to your, fire truck turnaround standards, dimensions behind parking stalls to where they would abut to something else. Those are, at or exceeding distances. Those are all the big things on these tight infill projects that are, just a bear to try to squeeze everything in and check all the boxes. We've actually exceeded our parking slots. The city council has a ceiling on parking. So I asked for and received at a staff level, some grace on that. It was just very small, but it did exceed it. We're at 2.5. I think you guys are around closer to 2, 1.5? Okay.
No, 2 is the ceiling. Oh.
Okay, yeah, so we're slightly above, which in these, to me, you can't have too much, but, every jurisdiction's a little different on that. I think that is everything. The real big thing was just the emergency vehicles and the width of the drive lanes, just for safety, fire safety, life safety issues. And then all other items on the plat are, standard for this type of subdivision. I understand, all the conditions that have been, applied to this, primarily through the rezone about 1.5 years ago. So, yeah, any questions from you guys?
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Wolf is the only one who has signed up to speak at this public hearing. So unless there are any further questions from Mr. Wolf or from staff, I would accept the motion to close the public testimony portion of the hearing. Thank you, is there a second? Second. I have a motion by Mr. McGee, second by Mr. Allgood, to close the public testimony portion of the hearing. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I would present for your approval the evidence list as follows. I have the staff report, the sign-up sheet, the aerial of SUB 20P10, and the development agreement.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the evidence list as provided.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Carlson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McGee to approve the evidence list as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I would begin the decision-making process by asking council for a comprehensive plan analysis.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
I would move that we accept the comprehensive plan analysis under Roman numeral 5 in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee to approve the comprehensive plan analysis as found in Roman numeral 5 under the staff report. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Oh, I'm sorry. Any opposed, nay?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor,
Is it 9?
it is 9.
Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I would amend that to
Okay.
Roman numeral 9.
I apologize. 9 is the motion. Is that all right with the seconder?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for council's findings of fact.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Allgood.
call city council accepts the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Allgood, second by Mr. McGee to approve the findings of fact as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Conclusions of law.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Allgood.
Call City Council has the authority to hear this case and recommend to the City Council that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under the requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Allgood regarding conclusions. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McGee. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for order of decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the mayor and the city council hereby orders case number SUB 20P-10, a request by Blake Wolf on behalf of Ripco Properties LLC and CAD Properties LLC for preliminary plot approval of 10th Avenue Pike subdivision, consisting of 9 residential multifamily lots and 1 common lot in an R3 high-density residential zone. For the property located on the west side of 10th Avenue, approximately 180 feet south of the intersection of Amber Street and 10th Avenue. Parcel number R35664 in Caldwell, Idaho, be approved with the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval. Mr. Carlson, is there a second? Second by Mr. Wagner. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Carlson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes.
Thank you. Order of decision is unanimous, and, is there a motion then to close this public hearing? So moved. A motion by Mr. Allgood, second by Mr. McGee. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. You bet, appreciate it. Good luck with your development efforts. You bet. All right, that completes item number 5. Under new business, I move this into item number 6, which is also a quasi-judicial public hearing known as ANN 20-00010//SUB a request by Bob Cotton on behalf of Pontifac Capital LLC to annex parcel R3434010B, approximately 13.98 acres with a zone designation of R1 Single Family Residential, consistent with the 2040 Comprehensive Plan designation of low density residential. Also requested is a preliminary plat, Langley Hall subdivision of 10.41 acres, portion of the subject property containing 29 residential lots and 12 common lots. The subject property is located at 10164 Elvera Lane in Nampa, Idaho. And again, that's one of those weird deals where the post office has, assigned zip codes, right? And it's actually in Caldwell, with a Nampa address, so, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Debbie Root, Senior Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard, and I have been sworn.
Thank you.
The case before you tonight, Langley Hall, annexation and preliminary plat. The annexation is for 13.98 acres of property, and the preliminary plat will be for 10+ acres, once the annexation is complete. They're asking to annex in as, R1, single family residential, which is consistent with the underlying comprehensive plan. This case was brought before this hearing body last summer, and it was, denied due to some deficiencies in the plan. And so the applicant, took to heart the, suggestions of the, hearing examiner and the city council regarding the development of this property, the amenities that were provided, the lot layout, and brought forth a, completed preliminary plat with a good development plan, amenities for the, occupants within the platted area residential development, and also provide some, common area amenities for those using the pathways and the, less usable ground to the, I guess, southwest of the irrigation structure. Again, the, property is in, so the development plan and this property lie within what is, R1 or low density residential on the comprehensive plan. The development is substantially in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance requirements. I believe the developer made extra effort to, address the development requirements that the city council, brought forth. The, upper tip, the northern tip of this property that is owned by the Benders, all the property is still owned by the Benders right now, but, will be divided and although be in the city, it will not be a platted portion of the property. The Elvera Lane will not be utilized by the public or people from within the development. There'll be bollards at the end of the cul-de-sac, and it is a fire access, that has been provided for that. And so, the slide in front of you there shows the fire access easement, the location where that's going to be, which provides the secondary access for that. With that, staff is recommending, approval of both the annexation and the preliminary plat as presented, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruth. And again, inasmuch as this is an annexation and a preliminary plat, the testimony, of course, will be applied to both. We will deal with the annexation first. If it is approved, then we'll move forward with the plat. If the annexation is not approved, then the plat becomes a moot point. But the testimony will be for both issues at the same time. The evidence list that I will provide will also be for both issues, okay? Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Root?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. White? Mr. White?
Hopefully she's at home, sorry, she's in bed right now, so that's all right, that's all right. So just a couple questions, Debbie, and I think this was implied, but just confirming, so they will be doing an administrative lot split, to split off that top portion of the existing home, is that correct?
They will be doing an administrative lot split, to divide that piece of property from the platted area, yes.
Do you think we should add that as a condition of approval, or do you think we're good with
No,
that?
I believe we have the application in the office.
Perfect, awesome. And then just a quick note on that, this is the appropriate way to do it. I've seen in the past where people try to leave out their property where their home is, they don't have to pay taxes on it to the city, and that's just not appropriate. So it's good, thank you for bringing this forward in this way, this is how it should be done. We don't want to create these islands that have happened in the past, and so thank you for stepping up to the applicant for doing that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Root? Thank you. Bob Totten.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Bob Taunton. My address is 2724 South Palmentier Way in Boise. Should I take this off? Would that be easier?
Sure, if you want to, thank you.
Okay. Or probably, yes, I think I can speak more clearly. And I have been sworn in. So I have a presentation. I appreciate Ms. Root's presentation and her support, staff support, as also the hearing examiner. I'll try to go over this presentation fairly quickly, so assuming I can press this slide, which way? Okay, so the application request that's been discussed, and one of the things on this slide I wanted to point out was the gross area of the parcel is 13.9 acres and subdivision being on 10.41 acres. And as has been mentioned, we're gonna do a simple lot split that's already been submitted to the staff. And we'll create the 3.57 acre parcel in the 10.41. So that's what that looks like. Parcel A is the vendor home site. Again, all of the parcel will be annexed and zoned, but the subdivision will apply to parcel B, just the southern part of that. Sorry. We comply with the comp plan and the zoning. We're not requesting any variances. The preliminary plat includes lots that are in excess of 8,000 square feet. We range from a little over 8 to 12,005, and we've got about 6 lots that are over 10,000 square feet. The qualifying open space, which was a discussion point at the last council meeting, does exceed the 6% minimum that's required. And we concur with the staff report and the conditions of approval. So there's nothing that we need to speak to. So this is the previous site plan preliminary plat, sorry. There were some issues with it, and I wasn't involved in that hearing or the application at that point, but did have an opportunity to watch the video a couple of times. It was painful, but we took it to heart, as Deb said, and a lot of credit goes to the applicant for willing to make the changes. There were a number of concerns that were expressed by council, some of which dealt with no internal open space the neighborhood could use. We didn't have the written authorization from VOR for the major pathway. We didn't meet the landscape standards for the major pathway. The connection to what was identified as the open space was very indirect. The stormwater basin, I think, was included in the open space, which we've obviously corrected that. And the design of the stormwater basin was not done at that time, so there wasn't the ability to describe what it is. People didn't know how deep it was, how steep the sides were, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a flag lot, and I'll just go back to the previous slide. If you look up the cul-de-sac, there is a flag lot there that really caused a lot of confusion on the part of council. It's gone, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. Sorry. So this is the revised site plan, and again, the focus was to create a central amenity gathering place for the neighborhood, but also to create connectivity, that, say, folks on the other side of the public street would be able to walk through, the park following a micropath, be able to get to the major pathway, and, so they could go north and south and connect into Castle Peaks pathway or the Arbors pathway. Or they could just scoot down the pathway in a very short amount of time, distance, they could get to the southwest passive park that we're creating. So that really, I think, again, the site is very constrained. We have we have a 110-foot wide, easement, that really bisects the property and leaves the very southwest corner as kind of an orphan piece of the property. So it can't be developed residentially. That's where we have created this park and also the infiltration basin. By the way, the basin is 2 feet deep. The sides are 4 to 1. So a very shallow basin. It is not a pond. There is a lot of discussion about that. It's not a pond. Obviously, there will be water at a heavy flow time and then it'll infiltrate, and the side slopes are gentle. It's not going to be a danger to anyone. So we will seed that area with native grass seed. The part of the west side of the actual ditch is the maintenance access way for the irrigation district. It's the same kind of format as it is in Castle Peak. So we have a public street. We have 2 private lanes that meet the code requirement, which is 24 feet with 5 feet of landscaping on either side. Those lanes service the 2 lots that are at the end of the lanes that butt up against the major pathway. The center east-west connection, of course, is the micropath. It's 5 feet plus 5 feet of landscaping on either side. So that again meets the code. I talked about the drainage basin. Oh, there's an aerial crossing of the stormwater pipe connecting the subdivision to the drainage infiltration pond, and you can kind of see that horizontal line just a little bit to the north of the park, crossing the, yes, that's it, thank you. So that's where it will be, it'll be an aerial crossing, it'll be underground, but of course, once it's over top of the drainage ditch, it'll be exposed, and that's why it's called an aerial crossing. Okay, so the qualifying open space, we set it about 6.86%, so more than the 6%. That includes the 10-foot major pathway, but not the landscaping adjacent to it, just the pathway. The neighborhood park and the micropath and the amenities, that's 16,221 square feet. We have the passive park at the southwest corner. Again, that excludes the stormwater infiltration basin. So none of that is included in any qualified open space. And actually, if we were to, because we're very constrained and impacted by the noble easement, if we were to subtract out that easement, less the part of the easement where we have the major pathway, we would be at something like 7.46% of open space. So obviously, the open space is calculated on the gross area of the property, but you can see what the impact is for the open space relative to that easement. Okay, just looking at the neighborhood park, we have created 6-foot wrought iron fencing along the micropath and also surrounding the park. And actually, if I can go back, let me just go back to this. Sorry. There is also wrought iron along the eastern boundary of the subdivision. There is another, wouldn't you know it, another pioneer irrigation easement that goes from 15 to 20 feet on the property, another constraint. So at the fence line, that's wrought iron fence. Staff requested that. They were concerned if it was vinyl fence and there was some sort of fire incident along the irrigation canal, that it would be much better to have wrought iron. We also have wrought iron that goes all the way along the major pathway. So it really helps to create an open park-like feel as opposed to something that's completely closed off. Along the pathway and around the park, there is the opportunity for, residents to put in gates and access those amenities directly. So that's an option for them to do that. The green, the darker green here is the, grass, turf, irrigated turf that we have proposed to have VOR approved, along with the aerial crossing, as I said, on the other side, because there's no irrigation, and particularly because that's the access way. I'm sure a few trucks will be driving up and down, and other heavy equipment to clean out the ditch. That's not where you're gonna put irrigated grass, of course. These are some of the amenities. We have a picnic shelter, shade shelter, and we decided not to do the typical kind of tot lot, you know, kind of, the slide and the swings and that sort of thing. In a community that's this small, that's incredibly expensive, and I can tell you from direct experience, it's very expensive from a maintenance standpoint, and there's a lot of liability associated with that piece of equipment. And actually, today in the landscape architecture profession, we're moving away from that type of tot lot to more of an adventure play. And we've seen this in some schools in Boise. We've also seen this type of apparatus in some of the other communities that we've had a chance to tour. So it's kind of more fun and adventure and creative than a slide and a swing set kind of thing. So that's the reason for doing this, and the developer was very happy to include that in the budget for the developer. This is the Southwest Passive Park. It will be irrigated turf. We created a little berm, 3 to 4 foot berm, which will kind of, you know, be a little bit of visual barrier to the infiltration basin. Not that that's going to be ugly, but it's just going to, you know, be that much more attractive. We have a seating area, a little, you know, pathway that goes into the park. It's shaded, it's separated from the street. And it really, in addition to being a pleasant place to go and sit, perhaps, it's also an attractive kind of entry statement into the subdivision. It's the first thing that you'll see as soon as you get past the Castle Peak subdivision, and, you know, it's an attractive addition for the community as well as for the residents. And of course, it's just a quick few steps across the Noble drain to get to the major pathway and the connectivity. There were some questions at the hearing examiner hearing about maintenance. Well, who's going to take care of all of this stuff? So we put together this slide to help explain that. So the light green area are the common lots. We have 12 common lots in the subdivision. The dark green are easements that are on lots. And then the tan color is, I've referred to it as the VOR license, but it's a use agreement that we sign with VOR. So it's not an easement, it's, you know, it's a right to use it for this particular use. I've included a little blow up of the area that's circled, and that's to show a 5-foot landscape easement that is on the lots. Of course, it's not at the park because it's a park. And that's where we can plant trees to meet your code requirements. The irrigation district will not allow trees to be in the irrigation easement. So working with staff, we figured out a way to be able to accommodate the code requirements. There will also be shrubs, et cetera, not just trees. And then we'll have the grass on the other side of the major pathway. Again, similar to what you see at Castle Peak. So I think everything is basically taken care of. The drainage basin, of course, the infiltration basin is part of the HOA responsibility as well, along with the streetscape buffers that you see along Spriggs. I believe, yes, this is a slide that was in the staff's presentation. There will be bollards at the end. It'll be restricted so there's no pedestrian or bike access to maintain the privacy for the vendors and other folks that live along Elvira Lane, which of course is a private lane that goes out to Midland. We will record an easement for this emergency access, I guess in combination with the final plat, or whenever it's appropriate to do that with, according to what the city's direction is. So that's been reviewed by the fire department and, as far as we know, accepted. And so that'll be what we'll, put in place to create that emergency secondary access that Dan referred to. And the last slide is the BOR approvals. We have approval, which we received in September after the first hearing before the council, for the Spruce Street crossing, which is, substantial. It's a 48-inch culvert, it's, a half street, 35 feet of right-of-way, sidewalk, utilities, the roadway, curb gutter, that sort of thing. The major pathway was also approved, so the full length of the easement, up against the eastern edge of the easement. So what's pending, is the stormwater pipe crossing and the native grass and irrigation line that I referred to, that'll be right next to that, major pathway. We did receive a letter in December, and it indicated that the request appears to be appropriate for further processing. Would you like to pay a fee? Of course, we paid the fee, and, we have yet to have final approval, but it has been approved by the Pioneer Irrigation District. And I have some extra slides in case there were questions, but we'll leave it at that. So with that, I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taunton. For the record, Mr. Taunton's presentation will be labeled CC 1005. I've got some other stuff I have to read in there, and then it's already been labeled, so. Any questions for Mr. Taunton? Mr. Olgan?
Would you go back one slide, please?
Yes.
On this secondary access, where this lane shown, is that in existence now, or is that something you'll have to build, this curved lane that makes that secondary access?
Mayor Nancomas, council member, yes, we will be constructing that. It does not exist today.
Okay.
And it'll be an all 20 feet wide, all-weather, roadway.
Okay, so it will be an actual roadway when you're done?
But it'll be, it'll be properly constructed, so that, if necessary, vehicles can obviously utilize it in case of an emergency.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
an all-weather surface, right? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Wagner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You can actually leave it there. So that's, my question was, with that, easement that's being put there, will that be shown on the record of survey that you're doing for the lot split?
I don't know. It should be? Yes, well, we could do that, yes. I think at the time that the record of survey was done for the lot split, this had not been finalized, so yes, we could do that.
Yeah, that'd definitely be recommended, because obviously it's not part of the plat, not
Correct.
lot, we wouldn't see it on there, so I think it'd be great to have it on that record of survey.
Okay.
And then a quick question for Mr. Orton. I haven't asked this for a few months, so you can't get too mad at me. I know these drains are supposed to be coming into the city of Caldwell possession, as of 5 or 6 years ago. Have we made any progress on that, moving in that direction still?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Orton?
Councilman Wagner, yes, I would say that progress is steadily being made on it. There have been a couple of parties with concerns, and those concerns, we've been working through those between us, Pioneer Irrigation District, and the parties with concerns. We have an irrigation district upstream who had some concerns, those have been addressed. And then we have a property owner on the downstream end of the process, and those concerns, I think, are close to address. We have a proposal collectively between Pioneer and the city of Caldwell that we made to that entity, and should bring that to its final step, so.
We're slowly but surely getting there.
Takes an act of Congress.
Literally.
It's not costing us $2 million a year.
Sorry about that. We should have had it done 2 years ago, but these things keep popping up on us, and we didn't know that, so. Any other questions for Mr. Taunton? Thank you, sir.
Another question, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to thank Mr. Cotton. I know this was a difficult, hearing back a few months back, and I really appreciate you hearing us and addressing our concerns, and, I think you've done a great job putting something together that we can live with. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, Mr. Taunton is the only one who has signed up to speak, but I do have some, letters to read into the record. well, I said emails, excuse me. So the first one I will label CC 1000. It is an email received, Thursday, February 11th, from Kim Whitemeyer. My name is Kim Whitemeyer. I live on Smiley Peak Avenue, and I am concerned about the building that is being proposed behind my home off of Elvera Lane. As more and more homes have been built in this area, our traffic problems have increased. There's more and more traffic everywhere, and especially down Santa Ana. The area on Santa Ana near the school gets very congested and may endanger the children walking to and from school. It is also often hard getting across Ustique at that intersection. I would like to see these developers help improve the traffic situation by finishing the bridge over the canal on Spruce so the road can be finished out to Midland Road. Then we would have a safer and more direct access to Midland Road without having to deal with the traffic congestion near the schools on Santa Ana. Sincerely, Kim Whitemeyer. That's CC 1000. The next is an email from Craig Hanks. It will be labeled CC 1001. I want to provide a couple of comments and for your consideration. I live at 10144 Elvera Lane, right next to the property, subject property. I'm generally supportive of the development of the property because I do feel it is in line with the development of other surrounding properties. I would ask the city council to consider the following requests. Please ensure that Elvera Lane will not be used to access the new subdivision. My understanding from attending other public and neighborhood meetings is that there will be an emergency-only access and that either a gate or another deterrent will prevent traffic from using our private lane. We have several families living along it with small children who do not want any traffic on the lane or public access to our private properties. Please do not annex our properties into the city of Caldwell. We all bought our properties knowing they were in the county and unlikely to ever be annexed into a city since we are on the border of the annexation plans in Mammoth and Caldwell. We all own 2 acres along Elvera Lane and enjoy our country living, raising beef and chickens and so forth. We've all spent significant money putting in our wells and septic systems and want to keep those. Please ensure that adequate irrigation access is maintained to our property since we are at the end of the Pioneer Irrigation East Lateral, and as most of the homeowners along Elvera Lane and Alder Creek Lane use our water rights to irrigate our pastures. I would like to ask the city to consider at this time extending Spruce Street clear through to Midland. It appears on the plan that the city only plans to extend it through to the end of the new subdivision. But with the increase in homes and traffic in this area, I believe it would be more prudent to extend Spruce Road now to connect Midland Boulevard and Middleton Road. If this is not done, additional traffic will be forced to drive through the Arbor Home subdivision or down Santa Ana Avenue by the elementary school and middle school. Neither of these options are as good as the Spruce Road was extended clear to Midland. CC 1002 from Martha Level, L-E-A-V-E-L-L. Please extend it to Midland as soon as possible. Thank you. That's all it says. This is CC 1003 from Amanda Cross. Hello, I'm reaching out on behalf of Castlebeck Subdivision. We understand the rapid growth in our area has become difficult to accommodate. However, we are extremely concerned with traffic and overcrowding. If at all possible, we'd like to address our concerns as a community so that we can be part of the planning and decision-making process. Due to the fact that the residents are on the receiving end and experiencing these issues firsthand, thank you for your consideration. Debbie Miles, CC 1004. Our traffic on Santa Ana is becoming very heavy. Please consider opening Spruce Route to Midland to cut down traffic on Santa Ana. Concerns are many, but especially for the school traffic and the children. That's from Deborah Miles. Those I've all read into the record, and so Mr. Thompson, if you want to, during read-by, address any of those, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Number of comments about extending Spruce. Of course, we're gonna be, extending Spruce across the canal to, the edge of the property. The area that is directly north of the Arbors, where they have a half street, that will be a full section. But once you get to the actual, drainage easement, then it will be, a half street on the north side, curb and gutter. There is no right of way to the east, and it just makes sense that that would be undertaken when, those properties subdivide, and the right of way will be provided, and at that time, those developers can make that, or property owners can make that connection. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes all the testimony from any folks who have signed up to speak at this public hearing. Are there any questions for staff or Mr. Thompson? All right, hearing none, is there a motion then to close the public testimony portion of the hearing? So moved. Thank you. A motion by Mr. McGee, is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Wagner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Again, I would present to you now the evidence list, which would be for both ANN 20-000010 and SUB 20-00013. I have the following: the staff report, sign-up sheets, the aerial of ANN 20, the preliminary plat, CC 1000, which was the email from Kim Whitemeyer, CC 1001 from Craig Hanks, CC 1002, Martha Lavelle, CC 1003, Amanda Cross, CC 1004, Deborah Miles, and CC 1005 was the presentation from Mr. Thompson. Anything else I missed?
Mr. Mayor, just, is this what you had intended by the overhead? That would,
Yes.
Very good, okay.
Yep. I call it the aerial of the area, so that's what I refer to. Thank you. All right, anything else that I missed? All right,
Chair, I move to approve the evidence list as presented.
thank you. Is there a second? A motion, Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee, to approve the evidence list as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, then we'll first go to the annexation request. So I would ask for the comprehensive plan analysis for ANN 20-00010.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
I would move that we accept the comprehensive plan analysis and the staff report under Roman numeral 5.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Allgood, to approve the comprehensive plan analysis as found in the staff report under Roman numeral 5. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you. I would ask for council's findings of fact for ANN 20.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Allgood.
annexation is R1 low-density residential. The mayor and city council accept the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and the evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application.
Thank you. Is there a second? A motion by Mr. Allgood, a second by Mr. McGee, regarding the findings of fact. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Conclusions of law?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
the mayor and city council has the authority to hear this case in order that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under the requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances.
Thank you. Is there a second? I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. McGee, to approve the conclusions of law as stated. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. Order of decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Allgood.
based on the findings of facts and conclusions of law, the mayor and city council hereby orders that case number ANN 20-00010, a request to annex parcel R34340010, B as in boy, 13.98 acres with a zone designation of R1, single-family residential, consistent with the 2040 comprehensive plan designation as low-density residential, is approved with conditions, listed in section 10.
Thank you. I have a motion for approval with conditions as listed in the staff report. Any further discussion? Oh, we need a second, I'm sorry. Second by Mr. Wagner. Any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Allgood,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Hopper,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously, so the annexation has been approved. With that, then we can move forward to SUB 20-0000013. So again, the evidence list has already been approved, so I would ask for council's comprehensive plan analysis.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ogden.
I move that we accept the comprehensive plan analysis in section 11, and list as, with components listed below.
All right, thank you. We have a motion for comprehensive plan analysis under section 11.
Yes.
The staff report, is there a second? Second by Mr. McGee. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for council's findings of fact.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Ogden.
Mayor and City Council accept the facts outlined in the staff report, public testimony, and evidence list. All adopted city ordinances, standards, and codes were used in evaluating the application.
Thanks. We have a motion by Mr. Allgood, a second by Mr. Paulson, to approve the findings of fact as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. I would ask for council's conclusions of law.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
the mayor and city council have the authority to hear this case and order that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, the hearing was legally noticed and posted, and the hearing was held and conducted under the requirements of Idaho Code and city ordinances.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. I have a motion by Mr. Carlson, second by Mr. Allgood regarding conclusions of law. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Order of decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carlson.
based on the finding of facts and conclusions of law, the mayor and city council hereby orders case number SUB 20-00013, a request for a preliminary plat on, Langley Hall subdivision containing 10.41 acres with 29 residential lots and 12 common lots on R1 low-density residential zone property be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. I have a motion for approval, subject to conditions in the staff report. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Allgood. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Paulson?
Yes.
Pollard?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Allgood?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Hopper?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again. We appreciate it very much. It's good to have you here before us. I would accept the motion to close this public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second by Mr. Allgood, Mr. Carlson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. All right, that completes item number 6. Moves us then to item number 7, which is to consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3306. This is regarding the public hearing that was just held. I will read this bill by title only and ask for council's consideration to approve it on its first reading by title only and to approve the summary for publication. So bill number 59, ordinance number 3306, an ordinance determining that certain land lies contiguous to the city limits of the city of Caldwell Canyon, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed to the city of Caldwell, Idaho, as part of the R1 low-density residential zone, declaring said land by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the clerk of the city of Caldwell to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pollard.
I move that we consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3306 on its first reading by title only.
And to waive the rules, right? Yes. Yes, okay.
Sorry, sir.
No problem. We have a motion by Mr. Pollard to waive the 3-reading process to consider bill number 59, ordinance number 3306 on its first reading by title only. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McGee. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Pollard?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Allgood?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Hopper?
Yeah.
Paulson?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Pollard?
Mr. Mayor, I will sponsor bill number 59
59, ordinance number 3306, move for attached by title only and approve the summary for publication.
Thank you. Second? A motion by Mr. Pollard, second by Mr. Carlson to sponsor bill number 59, ordinance number 3306, move for its passage on its first reading by title only, and to approve the summary for publication. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Pollard,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Aldred,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Hopper,
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries unanimously. Bill number 59, ordinance number 3306 has been passed unanimously on its first reading by title only and the summary approved for publication. That moves us then to the new item 7A, which was 22 on the consent calendar, which is to approve a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Iowa Transportation Department for construction of the I-84 Houston Bridge as a 5-lane structure as approved by the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency on February 8, 2021, for project funding in the amount of $3,507,000. I agree with this one. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Walkerman.
All right, good evening all, Mayor and Council. So, did not get the proposed edits into the clerk on time to get them in the packet, so I'm gonna run through some of them with you. The recommendation, would be the council approve, moving forward with signing the agreement, with a version of the document as presented tonight, minor modification, finalized with the city attorney within the next couple days. So, that would be the request, but I wanted to, rather than just tell you that I had some minor edits and leave you in the dark as to what they would be, I wanted to present those to you, so you would know what they were. I'll let Mr. Orton scroll. This particular project, Mr. Orton has told me you are well aware of what the purpose of it is, and so this is just a matter of the specifics on how to carry it out. So Brent, I highlighted everything I wanted to talk about, so, you know, there we go. So, most of these are clerical, but again, didn't want to frustrate you by trying to walk through the document without you having it in front of you, so. Taking design and construction plans from just being simply reviewed by us to approved, but we obviously can't withhold our approval unreasonably. Just adding our stamp of approval into that process. Did I say reasonably? Make some clarity on when the highway sign would have to be maintained, meaning that the ITD would not just have to maintain those during the construction period. That was somewhat unclear. An obligation they have nevertheless, so mostly clerical. Brett, you can scroll. The main concern with this agreement was that we're obviously front paying this massive lump sum. So there are two things that can go wrong. First, you could have project costs come in over budget that we're on the hook for. They don't tell us till the 11th hour. So, this section here at the bottom of, section 3 at the bottom of that page and continuing on the top of the next page, is an obligation that they tell us as soon as they know if project costs are going to exceed the estimate. This is additional clarity on, the city is doing some of its own construction, on either end of this bridge project, to try to save some costs, so making clear that they're going to, that they're not paying for those, they're not doing those, they won't be engaging in that activity, so they'll be covering that. Section 7 is mostly just clarity on the language. Section 8 is addressing the other thing that can go wrong, which is, that we overpay, the costs come in below budget, putting some time requirements on when we meet, when we look over the numbers, and when we get paid back, and I will coordinate with the mayor and with, Mr. Orton to determine exactly what the number should be in those blanks in terms of days and months, and ITP will probably have some input as well, but we'll get that, whether it's 90 days or 180 days, it'll be something concrete, which is the most important part of that we don't languish on for some number of years.
City obligations. Sorry, just saying this is city obligations, this part.
Right, and so, in the section, simply noting that ITD retains the ownership and maintenance responsibility for things that are within the corridor. I wanted to clarify that. I think that was it, right? Yep, that was it. So those are the changes that will be reflected, if council approves conditionally, in the final version, and we'll get that over to ITD, they'll give us the thumbs up hopefully, and so next you'll hear about this, you'll be looking at a big nice bridge, and, this will come back to me.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Waterman?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. White?
Not a question, just a comment, real quick. I'm very disappointed in ITD, on this. I know I was on initial discussions, been over a year, I think, Brent, where we were trying to work with them to help them, or have them help in some way. They kind of said yes, and no, then maybe, and obviously this is where we ended up, and it is so short-sighted of them. Ustick Road is the only road that provides access through the entire Treasure Valley, from Boise all the way out to Homedale Road, or all the way out to Homedale. And for them to say a two-lane road is good enough, we'll put some abutments on, it's the Costco interchange all over again, where they're back out reconstructing it 2 years later, and what a waste of taxpayer dollars. And unfortunately, it's us that's gonna have to bear the brunt of that, but it's the right thing to do. I'd love to vote no on this and just say, okay, we'll build 5 lanes when it comes to year 2, and we're gonna put a phone number to you, ITD, for people to call and complain, but that's not the right thing to do. That's just gonna punish our citizens, and so reluctantly, it is a yes, but it's too bad, and I wish ITD would have stepped up to the plate and what they should have done.
Project's pretty hard to get along with.
That's my only comment.
Mr. Mayor? Yes.
If I may, I mean, they are building Middleton Road at a 2-lane. And so, I mean, in my opinion, that sentiment will be felt. And people will say, Caldwell did the right thing, you know. So, I agree it's painful, but I personally applaud the city council and the urban renewal board for being willing to take it on, because I think it is the right thing to do, and a few years down the road, the citizens won't care where the money came from, they'll care that the right thing was done.
This is what makes Caldwell the treasure of the valley.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
For either Brent or Douglas, either one, so with this widening, is the state doing all the land acquisition to make that possible?
I think it's already done, hasn't it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, yes, as far as the bridge itself is concerned, yes, they've already completed that.
We're doing our piece on, on Ustick coming back towards the boulevard, but for the bridge abutment itself, it's all on.
And the state's covering all that, that's not part of our.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
In fact, Councilman Allgood, there are a few pieces of property that will be coming to the city of Caldwell as part of this. Nelson Lane, for instance, is that kind of odd road connection. The state doesn't want that. And so one of the things we're doing in this agreement is accepting that road, and then accepting some rights of way that are outside of the controlled area, which is basically the interstate corridor, including the bridge.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hopper?
again, this is not really, tangible with what we're dealing with tonight, but just for my curiosity, Brent, on our piece of the or the right-of-way acquisition, how far are we? About what percentage do we have for that, for our piece of the roadway?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Hopper, I believe your question is, how much of the right-of-way acquisition do we have complete for the Ustick widening? Yes?
Correct.
Okay, I'm unable to give you a straight answer on that, I don't know, but we have had a right-of-way negotiator engaged since August, and he's been working on that. We asked him to focus first at the intersection, adjacent to the interchange, or the bridge rather, it's not an interchange like I hope it will be one day. But it is, he's focusing there and at the Cleveland Boulevard, Ustick crossing, where we need to make significant improvements to the intersection. And then he'll be moving out from there. And there are a lot of individual properties to be acquired, but there's one owner that has, Gary Lasher has numerous parcels from which we need to acquire pieces, and so hopefully that won't take too long to complete. We told him, the negotiator originally, that we needed to complete that, basically by March. I don't think he's gonna meet that deadline. The appraisals, acquiring the appraisals has been the big holdup, and we experienced that when we sought an appraisal last year, and it took I think, 3 months to get started on the appraisal, and then we were in queue and got the appraisal completed in 5 or 6 weeks, so.
It's progressing and we don't see any, major roadblocks, I guess is what I was concerned about. I would hate, what I'm trying to say is I'd hate to have our piece of this able to proceed, and have a 5-lane bridge there to nowhere. If you
Yeah,
will.
Mr. Hopper, yes, it is progressing, and then we have no major, issues that have popped up, so.
Excellent, that's all I needed to know, thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Coughlin?
But, this is not on the bridge subject, but as we go to widen Eustis there, the railroad is gonna have to widen. Is there any way we can convince them that that should be another quiet zone intersection?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Carlson, so I will give you my opinion if that's okay. That is a wise endeavor. The criteria for quiet zones it's based on a safety point system. It's one of the reasons we have a couple of intersections that maybe we could close crossings, and that would add points. But my opinion is that it is unwise for us to add any complication or turning to the left or the right with the railroad, because it's so difficult to get them to just get something done. So I would suggest that we stay on the trajectory of just getting them to widen that, and we address the idea of a quiet zone later. Except maybe we could address improvements or the ability to make improvements that would allow a quiet zone in the future, like the fourth quadrant.
Linden in there too. I didn't even think about that.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just finally, Mr. Waterman, I wanna thank you for fixing this. I know sometimes we rush to getting things done, and I appreciate you, steering us back on course and getting this document in a way that doesn't leave the loopholes that we know the, ITD attorneys would take advantage of, so thank you.
Glad to hear Brent and I have been looking over it, so we've had, any reason to talk to Brent is a good reason to talk to Brent, so.
There you go.
All right, any further questions for Mr. Waterman? I assume the appropriate motion would then be to approve the cooperative agreement for the Ustick Road, overpass, as amended based upon your comments tonight.
Yeah, a version, to approve it in a version substantially the same as the one presented tonight. Just so that if I have to, for example, what I presented here shows edits, doesn't have signature blocks, or Brent found that typo. So the version that is being approved, it substantially conforms to what has been presented. If there's a jot and tittle, moved around or replaced, I don't want you to be surprised by that, but that would be the motion I recommend.
And Mr. Mayor, may I add to that? There is a resolution associated with this item. This is an ITD crafted resolution, which is typical of these agreements. So if we can, I guess, make the motion in such a way that it references that we're going to make these modifications to the agreement, but that we intend to pass the resolution as it applies to this modified version of the agreement.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Let's go ahead and say that, Rudy.
Yeah, okay, so, Mr. McGee just made a motion to approve the resolution authorizing signature for the cooperative agreement, as long as it is substantially, the same as what was presented this evening. Okay? Is that second? Second. Was that Mr. Pollard?
Yes.
Okay, second by Mr. Pollard. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll, please? Mr. McGee?
McGee,
Yes.
Alvid,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Hopper,
Yes?
Paulson,
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carries unanimously, and thank you, Douglas, and also Brent, for your work on this. It'll be nice to get this moving, and again, Mr. Wagner, I agree, this is something that's just absolutely painful but necessary. And thank heavens we have the means to do it. If we did not have the means to do it, through urban renewal, then this would have been something that would have been just a mess for, you know, I think it makes a sense for years to come.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I might, what Brent said, I think is spot on, and with the work that's going on at the Middleton overpass right now, almost immediately after that's constructed, the regret that's going to take place was it's only 2 lanes. That's a major thoroughfare, and it's gonna be a bottleneck for years to come, immediately after it opens. So it's, we're kind of biting the bullet here, but I think it's a wise decision.
Thank you. All right, financial report. Who's doing that tonight? Mr. Alden?
Yes. The finance committee has reviewed current accounts payable in the amount of $2,106,491.72 for pay period ending February 11, 2021, and a net payroll of $387,342.85 for pay period ending January 30, 2021. I move that accounts payable in the amount of $2,106,491.72 represented by check numbers 151602 through 151899, and payroll for the amount of $387,342.85 represented by check numbers 35741 through 35759, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Allgood, second by Mr. Carlson regarding the financial report. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Council reports, Mr. Pollard.
Mr. Mayor, I've had several people contact me, and I've mentioned this before, about, traffic in downtown, specifically on Kimball Avenue, at Main Street and Arthur, cars that are continually running those stop signs. And I've actually almost been hit myself. I again asked for, additional police patrol downtown, and I know this is part of the traffic commission, and my question to you, I know we have a private citizen on the traffic commission, I'm not gonna mention his name, you know who it is, but I do wonder if this person is actually attending, traffic commission meetings.
Brent?
Mr. Mayor, our at-large, member's term expired at the end of this year, and we're in the process of appointing a new member and have thanked, the previous at-large member, and, he did attend many of the meetings. We've lost his attendance when we were meeting via Zoom. He was, I think, is not into the texting, and he didn't, participate much during that time. But he was pretty faithfully participated before that time, and now we're sending him on his way and bringing in a new at-large member.
Thank you.
And what is the process for selecting the at-large member?
I make a recommendation to the mayor, and, I've received a volunteer from, a gentleman who has been employed by the Caldwell Police Department and is now moving on to Idaho State Police. He's a Caldwell resident, and he has expressed his interest in becoming the at-large participant on the, that's Randy DeLeon. In my opinion, Randy he is very conversant with traffic issues. He's gonna have access to data, be kind of a great, person to have there. There's certainly other at-large members that could be good, but we've moved that, recommendation on to the clerk's office. And Mayor, I don't think that we sent it to you yet, but anyway.
Well, of course, I do know Randy, and I think he would be a great selection.
Thank you, Mike. Anything else?
No, that's it, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson?
Nothing but that.
Mr. Hopper?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I had the great pleasure to speak at, Megan Dixon's environmental studies, group this last week, and I just want to tell you, and this is really a statement to the whole city, it makes it really easy to talk about planning and talk about, smart growth and talk about, the right way to do a comprehensive plan when, our city gives us such great examples of master plans and, comp documents and why we do what we do. I just want to compliment the entire city for, really being on the front edge of doing things the right way. You know, certainly the U-Stick Bridge is a piece of that, but we always, I think, take the moral high road and do the right thing, and, being able to brag about that in an educational setting, just makes you feel good that we've come a long way. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for what you do and the leadership you provide our staff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hopper, and thank you, and to the council for wise policies. All right, Mr. Wagoner. Echo Mr. Hopper. Thank you, Mr. Ogden. Nothing? Mr. McGee? Okay, just a couple things, if I could. Things just continue to go from bad to worse at the legislature. If any of you know Mr. Rice, I would encourage you to at least let him know how disappointed we are in the proposed legislation. His legislation would literally flush 20 years of hard work in our urban renewal agency down the toilet. You know, the attempt, I guess, at this is to somehow help with property tax. But when you take away new growth construction, that's the exact opposite of what, I mean, now you're forcing the city to raise taxes on its existing citizens to help offset whatever costs you might have. And again, if you can't have new growth construction roll, how do you pay for growth? You don't. Makes no sense whatsoever. So we've promoted things like circuit breaker formula revaluation, impact fees for schools, readjusting the homeowner's exemption and indexing it. I mean, different things that, you know, could help with the actual problem, but those have met with absolute on deaf ears. And this bill is being heard Thursday in committee. So if you have the inclination, I would encourage you to contact Mr. Rice and tell him how much this, and again, we've been doing that already, but, you know, it doesn't hurt if he hears from multiple people.
What time Thursday?
I think it's at 1:30 in the afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, Thursday afternoon. You guys will be over there in the morning, I think.
Too much to go on.
Yeah, Chelsea is actively working it, obviously, and so is AIC and Mayor Evans and Ben Broxham, who is the AIC lobbyist. And, I mean, we have support from counties, from residents, even Canyon County, concerned citizens of Canyon County recognize how disastrous this bill would be. And I don't know why, but it's just, I mean, every organization out there has opposed it, and yet it seems to have legs, and I don't get it. I just don't get it, so.
Mr. Mayor, I know I mentioned to you that, they think they're punishing the urban areas by doing this, and the reality is they're punishing rural communities, because their inability to raise, based on their level of growth that they might experience, is really harmful to rural development and rural services. So, they have no idea what they're doing.
It's got just disaster written all over it. So if any of you, would like to get engaged with that, I would encourage you to. Yes. He is the chair of that committee. I'd be good to know who the committee members are in that. Chelsea has all that information. You may not be able to handle, maybe we could get. Yeah, and we're sending a letter, Chelsea and I and Carol worked on a letter today that we're sending to the entire committee. I'll make that available to you with our comments, and I'll send that out to you.
I was just gonna say, Mayor, just a little bit facetiously, but there was a time when the legislators used to work with the mayor in this town to pass policy. I think there's a couple of them sitting at this table that used to make that a habit, but just a comment.
I long for the old days in most ways. Also another one who is retired, doing this tremendously. All right, anyway, that is looming and it's disastrous. If it passes, I mean, we would lose 50% of our revenue from urban renewal agency sunset. That alone is $1.5 million a year. Forever? Add that up. Plus, new construction roll only comes in at 75% of the new construction roll, plus your cap at 4% combination for everything. And when you're growing at 6 and 7% like we've been, that means you don't even get your new construction roll, plus you can't take any of the 3% for just ongoing. I mean, it's a disaster. So, I would encourage you to work on that. Just real quickly, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is having a meeting on Thursday, and I will be speaking at that. They want to just get an update from the city on how things are going in our community, but with a very diverse community we have, and so I'll be speaking at that. We do have our AIC Legislative Conference call on Friday, if any of you want to get in on that and listen. Just contact myself or Chelsea and we can get you the link so you can listen to that. Again, we discussed earlier, but the fire station number 3 is open. We had our first crews out there, I believe, last Thursday or Friday. You know, the only holdup there was the fiber, and that's now taken care of, and we still don't have that resolved with the ITD piece of it, but we did get resolved with Sparklight. And so we will at least have the ability to, serve those residents out of there. The other thing that we want to just visit with you quickly, I sent out an email to you regarding the 4th of July celebration. Again, every 7 years.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just wanna be clear, tomorrow there's also a call with the governor, am I correct?
Mike, it could be, I'm not aware of it, I don't have it on my calendar, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It conflicted with another one of my meetings and so I'll have to check into that, Mike, I don't know.
Mayor, it is
Thank you, sir.
It's at 11 o'clock a.m. tomorrow.
And what kind of call is that? Is it just an update from the governor or?
Yes, it's weekly call.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm sorry, Mike, yeah, I didn't have that on my calendar tomorrow, I've got a full day tomorrow, but I did not have that on there, so.
Thank you. I will be there.
All right, please, and then let us know if you can give us an update on that, I'd sure appreciate it. 4th of July happens once every 7 years, it's on a Sunday. And I think I've heard back from council is that we can make it a 2-day event and have the parade. Again, fingers crossed that all things keep going well with COVID. On Saturday, with the events in the park on Saturday, many of our volunteers are, church leaders and church members, and so we lose those volunteers if we try to do it on Sunday. They'll be attending church meetings. So in visiting with Debbie and others that have been involved in the past, and also, some of the folks who've been on those committees, they feel like doing it 2 days would be great, having a parade and activities on Saturday, then fireworks Sunday evening, so people can still do what they would do on Sundays and not interfere with that, with those church services or whatever family activities they may do, but what a great way to spend an evening on Sunday with your family and the best fireworks in the state of Idaho, so.
And it won't make a difference with the illegal fireworks. You start a week early.
They start a week,
long.
you go a week later, so, yeah, they'll do whatever they want, so. So does that sound all right? I mean, obviously it's not an action item, but I heard from some of you, and I think the comments were consistent from all of you, that seemed to be a good thing to do. Is that all right?
No, why not make the best day of the year 2 days long? I'm good with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, did you have something?
No, I just, concur that, the 2-day event is what we should do.
All right. Well, with that, unless there's any, dissent, I will direct staff tomorrow morning at, the appointed officials meeting to move in that direction, and we'll make it a 2-day wing meeting. That's a legal term. Right? Wing meeting? Yeah, okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Move that you get that in the.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all, and to all a good night.
Thank you, Mayor.
Rob, did you say something?
No, just thank you, Mayor, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Have we heard anything about the third over yet?
Yes, it is getting closer and closer and closer and closer. They made a nice presentation to, urban renewal. We're working with them, we still have a little gap. We can close that gap.
Oh, is that
It was a beautiful presentation. We're hoping that we can make it work.
I hadn't heard about the sanitary bill, just.
Yes, I'm sorry that, we were successful. So we had the hearing, so we had the executive session here, but that urban renewal is actually one part, right? But yes, they actually completed it. That is cool. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Now, we gave you some time to get out, after we went, or whatever else. We, was it in January?
That was something, just had me on the next check.
End of January?
Told me I was a wuss.
That's why I always, I think, I had to
pretty bad one a couple weeks ago.
somewhere in there, yes, that's ours.
Always
Yes,
nice.
it's ours.
Like, I actually went to the doctor. I think my, my ribs. Oh, She jumped on me like the night before.
Actually, I have been working very closely with Kurt Reed and with Rick,